What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here, alongside Josh Davis for another Wednesday Link Live. Welcome you guys in right now as Philadelphia's had a very productive past 48 hours. The signing of Kevin Byard. We have new injury updates, really good ones in terms of the injury report that happened today, and a whole bunch more. Josh, first off, happy Wednesday. How are you doing?
Happy Wednesday. I am doing fantastic. I think I texted you yesterday, and this is still the place that I'm at right now. We have Kevin Byard. Like I
Yep.
can't, I'm still trying to compute that. It may not be until Sunday when we see the jersey on, even when we start seeing the practice footage, because today was a walkthrough. So tomorrow we'll probably get the first look at it. It may not even hit me then. It might actually be game day, but I'm doing fantastic. It is a great week. To your point, we got the good news there, some injury updates as well that are awesome. But I'm doing great. Good to see you.
There's always I think, hesitancy when it comes to Philadelphia and the NFL trade deadline because we always hear stories. They're talking to this team. They're interested in this person. Yet sometimes nothing happens. And I think the safety spot was one where, especially post-Dolphins game, at least Sunday night, I was like, they're not going to get anybody because Reed's going to come back. Cindy Brown played well. Eli Ricks has emerged as a pretty darn good nickel cornerback because you're paying pennies on the dollar right now as an undrafted free agent. Maybe they won't go out and get a safety. And then less than 12 hours after dismantling the best offense in football, they went out and get the safety that always made the most sense. It wasn't Baker, it wasn't Simmons. It was always going to be the cheaper option of Kevin Byard, who has connections to Philadelphia, the team chemistry, obviously, with A.J. Brown, and someone who fits in this scheme very, very well due to his ability to play in the slot and in the box. I think it's still just surprising, like you said, but as people are saying in the comment section of both of our shows, it's a good week to be a Philadelphia Eagle.
It definitely is, yes. And to your point, it's one of those that I just posted on a poll up there. Were you surprised that Howie traded for Kevin Byard? But it's one of those where I could answer a yes, I was, because I completely was. And to your point, it's like the game ended on Sunday, a fantastic, best experience. For the season so far, because we actually got to be there in person. But the Kelly Green, it was just electric. So you walk away from that. How do you top it? Very next day, hey, here you go. Here's an all-pro to the roster. So, but at the same time, I would say there's a part of me that would say no, because as everyone assumes or realizes, it's Howie Roseman. Like you can't ever knock him or say like, oh, he's not going to do something. He's not going to get a deal done. Now, of all the teams, I would have thought that the Titans would be the last team that would like Rand Carthen. I just would have assumed he'd be like, who is this? No, I'm not picking it up because Howie's already fleeced him before with A.J. Brown. But of all the teams, I wouldn't have expected to be the Titans. Again, we're super happy about it. And, no one's going to complain here, but it just, I understand you got to probably get as much as you can for Byard. And there are reports that Carthen was trying to field offers or potential different offers. So I've got to assume that he got the best offer from Howie Roseman. But the fact that it's still all it took, and we did a live show, you did an immediate breakdown of it. But still, the fact that it was just a 5th and a 6th and Terrell Edmunds, come on. This is one of those, again, I'm trying to pinch myself. I still can't fully fathom it. So again, it may not be till Sunday, but yeah, it's great to be a Philadelphia Eagle.
Welcome in a bunch of you guys watching right now. Robert checking in saying hi, guys. Cool Rains, love the Kelly Green lights. They were amazing. Very cool to be at the stadium, as like we mentioned earlier. Josh and I were this past Sunday. Brian says, you guys rather have Barkley or Derrick Henry? Well, you're getting neither because there's a 0% chance that the Titans are also going to give Philadelphia Derrick Henry, and there's a 0% chance the Giants would trade Barkley in the division. So any headlines you might see from other people that say otherwise are very wrong. They're not trading for Derrick Henry, and I would be very, very, very confident in my opinion on that one. Troy says he loves the Byard trade. Backyard Birds podcast, he says he wants Henry, but again, that is virtually impossible. How about some roster moves that are possible? Ones they made just a couple of hours ago. See them up on your screen right now. They signed Noah Ellis back to the practice squad, Brandon Smith, who was someone that people were upset when they released him, and they released Tywan Mullen, and brought, obviously, back, I believe they brought back Mario Goodrich just a couple of hours ago. So they let go of Mario Goodrich in order to free up number 31 for Kevin Byard, and then they bring back Mario Goodrich, and so a couple of minor roster moves. One roster move that won't be happening, though, is the addition of Kayvon Wallace, who was cut by the Arizona Cardinals just yesterday. Apparently, the Eagles were interested, according to reports, and he ends up at Tennessee Titan, which I guess makes sense because they just traded away Byard to us.
Right. They, need someone fill in. They've got Terrell Edmonds, but if you want to have someone else there, I was thinking, assuming if he cleared waivers past everyone else, that
Sure.
it wouldn't have been too surprising. I don't think that a lot of people would think that it'd be too surprising if all of a sudden it's, hey, Kayvon Wallace has been signed back to the practice squad, because there's familiarity and there was some potential there because he was with Desai and getting some first team reps in camp and things like that. But yeah, it's one of those that not some big moves or major moves. We've talked about it before with the Brandon Smith. I think there's potential there, but that's a very much long-term position too. So none of those too crazy. The only one I would have expected possibly was a Kayvon Wallace, but like you mentioned, that's off the board because the Titans need some extra depth there. So good for them. I will say just real quick too, you're giving some shout outs as well. Ryan Green, what's up, fellas? Good to see y'all. We did get, I think Daz says still depressed. I know the Phillies lost yesterday.
Yes.
So, I'm saying it's a great week to be a Philadelphia Eagle. I'm trying to spin it as a glass half full, but I understand. And, we have sympathies because I thought it was given that the Phillies would win. That's probably way too over enthusiastic on that because we saw what happened, but I just assumed coming back home, game 6 and 7. I don't know. But yes, I apologize. It's not completely 100%. I'm just trying to be optimistic here. So there you go.
There you go. Ryan Green, speaking of which, he drops the first super chat of the night. He says, for 10, maybe how I can give them a Coke and a smile for Derrick Henry. At this point, you never know. LMFAO. Well, you never know. At this point, Howie might have something on the Titans GM. Although, quickly, let's go ahead and throw up the Kelly Green jersey giveaway, which is happening, obviously, at the end of the third quarter on Sunday. The final 1 p.m. game for Philadelphia of the entire year. It's pretty crazy to think about, but we're going to be giving away a Kelly Green jersey. And Ryan, being our first super chat of the night, has got 10 more entries into that giveaway, which will happen, obviously, in just a couple of days. And all you got to do is drop a super chat and subscribe to both channels. It's as simple as that. So we'll get some more super chats and more entries, I'm sure, the rest of the night. Expectations in terms of Kevin Byard. Are you expecting him to have a full go? I know he talked to the media today. I'm sure we'll talk about that in our shows tomorrow. Sean Desai has mentioned that there should be no restrictions. It feels like he's a plug-and-play guy. And with the injury report coming up today that Reed Blankenship was a full participant, you're going to see the Middle Tennessee State combination of both Byard and Blankenship, who worked out together this offseason. I think he's going to be a full go.
I do too. Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, if there's maybe just sparingly, some packages that go in there, but I mean, we all know this, but Byard's a vet. He's going to be able to pick up. He's catching up to speed quickly. He's working out, or I guess working with Ronell Williams in particular, all the defensive backs coaches, but Ronell Williams, who's the nickel coach, for those that may not be as aware. And so I think it just suggests, or it seems to suggest there, if you're going to try to hit the ground running, it's not just, hey, let's work with DK McDonald, the DB coach. Let's work with every one of them. So we want to get you solidified and ready to go. It just seems to point to that direction of, all right, let's go. Training wheels off. There's not much of a ramp up time. Let's get you in there. I think Byard had mentioned, obviously leaning on Reed Blankenship, because I don't know that if you had told me before the season started that a Middle Tennessee State secondary would be in the works, that I've been like, who is that? But, hey, there you go. There's some connection there. And Byard and Reed Blankenship worked out previously together in the offseason. So they're familiar with each other. They have that camaraderie. But I don't see why not. I don't see why you say, yeah, let's wait. Let's give this, a week to get caught up to speed. He's got, 4 days ish. I'm confident in him. I say, go ahead, roll him out there.
Yeah, I think he's going to be just fine. Safety is a difficult position to play, but it's not the hardest position to play in terms of getting up to speed. He's not a quarterback trying to figure out all the different route concepts and the protections up front. He should be able to learn this defense pretty quickly. And if they need to limit him, well, Sidney Brown played great against Miami. Desai talked about it today or yesterday in his press conference. I think they're going to find ways to get all three of those safeties on the field at the same time. And maybe even mix in Justin Evans, because he's got to come back from IR sooner rather than later. I think Byard creates a really interesting opportunity against some of the better tight ends. He's your best tight end cover guy, right? Because you don't put a corner on him whenever Deebo Samuel is out there and Ayuk's on the other side. How are you going to guard Kittle? Byard is kind of the Kittle answer. He's the Travis Kelce answer if you get to a potential Super Bowl rematch, which is very hard to say that. But right now, the two best teams in football are Philadelphia and Kansas City yet again. And so I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how much better he makes the secondary, which looked pretty good on Sunday night against, again, the best passing team in the National Football League and probably the best receiver in Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, without question. If I would not. Well, we can get into that. Let me preface that. I would say without question. We can get into AJ Brown and the impact that he's making. The best opposing receiver that you would face for sure with Tyreek Hill. But no, I mean, to your point, the flexibility and the versatility that he brings, it's all over the place, because it's not just safety. He's playing in slot, like you mentioned. He can play in the box. So being able to move him around, it wouldn't surprise me, because Desai has shown us already through the season that he's willing to adapt and adjust, and not only just pre-game, but in-game adjustments too. So, I mean, you see Desai was I think I saw that it was from I can't remember who. I think Fran Duffy may have posted this, but they had used cover 2 like 2% coming into the game against the Dolphins, and then they used it the most out of any defense this week, going cover 2. So it just shows you, like, Desai's not, here's our cookie cutter structure, this is all we're going to play. You do it based off your personnel. So yeah, once you start getting the safeties back, you like what you've seen from Justin Evans. He's been a playmaker, taking the ball away. Why not? Let's flex some guys around and move them in the different schemes or different formations. So I think it works out great. We've talked about for a number of shows, and I think we've seen for a number of years, it a lot of times feels like, oh, you've got that tight end, or you've got that mismatch that you can't quite guard or can't quite match up with. But I mean, this guy, Byard, and I guess I'd be interested to hear your take on this too, because you got to look at everything as realistically as you can. And I know there's always going to be some doubters. Do you feel like Byard is starting to get over the hill? It feels like the similar question that we've had for a Darius Slay, for a Julio Jones, for any signing here. But the haters immediately, and mainly Cowboys haters, so there's not a lot of realism there, but still they're trying to discredit it. Oh, he's not too great. He's best or the worst PFF grade in his career, but that's not really a concern, right?
No, okay, here's the deal. Kevin Byard is not at an all-pro level right now. He hasn't been at an all-pro level in a couple of years. It doesn't mean he's not great. All-pro is like the best in the league. Is he a top 10 safety in the league right now? Yes. Is he a top 5 safety in the league right now? Debatable, but he's pretty darn close. And so this whole idea that he's on the wrong side of, the age gap, or he's not been a dominant player in a couple of years, is a little ridiculous. Sean Desai was asked about this yesterday in his press conference, and he reiterated that he really loved what he saw in terms of the recent tape from, not just this past year with the Titans, but 2 years ago as well. Philadelphia is not trying to sign or did not trade for a 5-year starter at safety. Byard is a 2-year starter at safety. He might be a 1-year starter at safety. Philadelphia is in win-now mode this year, but also for the next 3 to 4 years, based on how long Jalen Hurts can not only stay healthy, but stay productive, which we've seen him progress each game so far this season. Byard can either be a short-term solution, a.k.a. this year, or he can play well enough that he gets another 2-year contract, similar to what Darius Slay got this offseason, but he's not a long-term thing. And so the good news is you owe him virtually no money. I mean, all the money is kept by Tennessee. You're paying like $2.4 million this year. If he stinks, you let him go and just let him walk. And if he pulls a C.J. Gardner-Johnson and wants more money this offseason than you think he's worth, you let him walk, and you drafted his replacement in Sidney Brown in round 3. So I have no issue or no concern there. Is he the greatest safety ever? No. Is he, the greatest safety in the league right now? No. But he's still a very, very good player, and I bet you he was a lot cheaper than Justin Simmons and Budda Baker were, because they're both are younger and a little bit better. But we know how he called them. It's just a matter of they probably wanted thirds, and instead of he could do a 5, a 6, and a roster spot essentially with Terrell Edmonds. So I have absolutely no worry about it. Speaking of trades, though, I want to quickly get to this comment, and then we'll go to the super chats. Turkishimoto Samurai says rumors are that Eagles have a mock trade for Patrick Surtain. Okay. Here's exactly what's happening with Surtain, because, again, you see headlines, and headlines tell you one thing. They don't tell you the whole story. Denver is listening to trade conversations with Patrick Surtain. Doesn't mean they're going to accept any. There was a mock from, I think, Bleacher Report today or yesterday that said it would take 2 first-round draft picks to trade for Patrick Surtain. Philly's not doing that. I'd be shocked if they do. They have 2 very good cornerbacks on the outside. They have a very good young backup cornerback spot right now. Eli Ricks potentially being a star undrafted free agent. The only way it works is if you either trade in the package for Surtain, Bradbury, or Slay. And Denver probably doesn't want Bradbury or Slay's contract because they're not 1-year deals. So it just doesn't make sense for Denver to get rid of Surtain. You can be in sell now mode all you want, but you don't sell your best young players on rookie contracts. And so the idea that Philadelphia is going to trade for Surtain is very, very slim. Extremely slim. I would put it at 1%. It's down there with the idea that Derrick Henry is going to be shipped off from Tennessee to Philadelphia as well. It's not going to happen. Do not believe the headlines that you're reading on YouTube.
Yes, even though, it'd be awesome.
Sure.
Neither of us would, discredit that. It would be awesome at just face value and don't look at what you have to give up. But yes, I agree. I mean, you'd have to give up so much. it's not impossible, like you said, 1%, because Howie could do some crazy stuff.
Of
But
course.
he also is always looking long term, and it's never about completely mortgaging the future to try to win immediately. Now, if there's something that he can do that makes sense. Not saying that he won't pull the trigger, but at that high of a price, he's looking at. I mean, heck, take a look at what we got in the draft. Not that you're always going to get a Jalen
Right.
Carter, but that's a lot to give up
Would
in a
you do it?
situation where you've solidified. So,
Would you give up
for
two
first rounds? No,
two first?
no,
Yeah. See,
no.
and that's the other problem is you give up
Because
two
we're not that
first
weak.
round. Right. You give up 2 first-round draft picks. You give up 2 rookie contracts. Surtain's going to demand money probably next offseason, maybe the offseason after that. You got to pay Surtain top cornerback money. Howie didn't want to do that. He would much rather take, the 20th overall draft pick or the 31st overall draft pick in 2025 and get the Darius Slay replacement. And then he's on a 4 or 5 year with an option rookie contract that's way, way cheaper. So I'd be surprised if it happens. How about Donnell Shipley getting in on our Kelly Green jersey giveaway here, happening on Sunday afternoon. So any super chat you do during the show gets you a chance to win. Be sure to watch our live stream at the end of the third quarter for your chance to see if you do win. But Donnell says, any update on Cam and Carter's injuries? Well, I have it right here. It's pretty good news. Hard to see, though. I got to zoom out a little bit there. Do you see them on this injury report, Donnell? I do not. That tells me that they are looking pretty darn good in terms of the injury report. You see the official one dropped by Philadelphia today following their walkthrough practice. Bradley Roby, shoulder, DNP. Milton Williams, a heel. That's a new one, but he was limited. And then Reed Blankenship, a full participant, which is something we can't talk about. That's really good news. But what you don't see here is any sort of Cam Jurgens, because he's still on IR for at least 1 more week, and no Jalen Carter. He has 0 designation here, meaning that he's 100% or as close as can be, and that is really good news. So injury-wise, we went from being the most injured team, seemingly in the NFC, to being one of the healthiest, because your injury report is only 3 players deep, 2 of which are for sure playing on Sunday, and Roby will probably be a game-time decision.
Yes. Yep. Most likely so. And again, after the game against Washington, technically that will open up the 21-day practice window where the Eagles can activate Cam. So we probably won't know for sure. I would hope and assume that it's, trending in the right direction.
Yes.
It'd be nice if he could play against Dallas. Not going to lie. I mean, I think we all realize that. But at the same time, to me, it feels like if Cam is not 100%, even if he's like 90% with the bye week the very next week, it wouldn't surprise me if you're like, let's not go with it. Let's have him get another week of rest, get the bye week, be fully ready to go the following, especially with KC coming up after that. So I don't know, but we haven't seen because he's on IR, like you mentioned. But yes, great news for Carter because he's not even listed there. That is fantastic news. This is the looking at the injury report is the least amount of names since week 1, maybe less. Really,
maybe
the
less.
First time this season. And whenever I saw that, I was like, "Oh my God, this is incredible news here!" But yeah, very, very little names listed on there, which is fantastic. So we'll take that.
We'll know more probably with the injury report coming out tomorrow. There'll be one Friday. It's going to be a fluid motion as we've seen. Devonta Smith was on the Wednesday injury report last week, and he was obviously 100% and fine. So we'll see about Milton Williams. I think Roby has a chance. They would have put him on IR because he's getting close to being out for 3 weeks, 4 weeks if they thought he was going to not be out anytime soon. So we'll keep an eye on that. But like you mentioned, thumbs up, everybody, for the injury report because we're at 75 likes, 500 people watching. I mean, the really, really good news here in terms of the Eagles being healthy. You absolutely love to see that. Let's get to a David. Let me get it here. Let's get to the Anish David, $20 super chat, 20 entries into our Kelly Green jerseys, which, by the way, Josh and I both got Kelly Green jerseys. My fiance, his wife, they look so good in person. Cannot recommend them enough. Whoever wins this is going to get a really, really cool piece of clothing. Anish says, love the individual and joint shows. Keep up the good work. Appreciate that. Your thoughts on Howie's encore move? I don't know. We got you down for 20 here. Is there an encore move? I'd be surprised. Where are the Eagles weak right now? Genuinely, right? They're not weak at receiver. They're not weak at offensive line with Jurgens coming back. And for the statistics saying that Suopeta didn't play well against the Dolphins, he didn't really give up a lot of sacks, so he was fine enough, right? Especially to be holding on a week or two. Quarterback's fine. Running back's fine. Defensive line is fantastic. Linebacker is really, really good. They have 3 of them versus having none. They now figured out safety. Corners are getting healthy. Where's the move? Unless someone wants to give you somebody, then sure, you can go and get that. But they're not trading for Hunter Renfrow anymore. They got Julio Jones. They're different players, but you don't have the room on the roster for a wide receiver. Derrick Henry, I don't think fits this roster that great, nor will Tennessee get fleeced a 3rd time, even though we said it wouldn't happen twice, but fool me a 3rd time, you know what I'm saying? So I just don't see another move happening. I think Byard's move was the move, and we forget about it quickly because it wasn't on deadline day, but I think it was as good as we possibly could have hoped for, and I'm absolutely fine with it.
Yes, I'm absolutely fine with it as well. I agree. I guess the question would be, for an encore move, to what magnitude? It wouldn't surprise me like completely if there is a very small move, a depth add, or something that Howie does there. But there's nothing that's going to be major. I mean, I saw some people bringing up the Commanders are open to talks for Montez Sweat or for
It's not
Chase
happening.
Young. First
No.
off, let's just say, even if they trade them, it will not ever be to Philly.
No.
They're just too good of potential and players there. You don't trade them to a division rival. So
Yeah.
as awesome as it would be to just think about, wow, what get a Chase Young or Montez Sweat in here, that's just not happening. So a bigger move, like you mentioned there, I don't know that there's a whole lot. I didn't like Suopeta in this last game. He had played better up until then. Now, this game, again, it's just one game, small sample size. If you could get a depth piece on the O-line, that's never a bad thing. Or maybe Tyler Steen gets a chance to prove something this week. I don't know. And again, it's only one game. But Sua, I mean, it was one sack for sure that he gave up. But technically, I think it went to Lane Johnson, but it was kind of Sua's fault for the read on that play that ended up getting Jalen sacked. So either way you look at it, it's 1 or 2 sacks that he gave up, and I think it was like 4 or 5 pressures in only like 38 pass blocking situations. So not a good performance. Again, it's only 1 week, so I think he can get it shored up. But the way the depth is right now and what we look at, we haven't had a whole lot of guys go down. And we saw what Jack Driscoll did or didn't do whenever he had to insert for Lane Johnson. So, if there's a vet out there you feel good about, but again, the question is, who is that? Who would you go after? But if I had to pick one position, I'd say O-line depth. If you're going to make a move, again, I don't know who that is, but it'd be O-line from my side. Real quick, I just want to mention to Serenity 21372 $2 super chat. I got you down. Didn't get a comment, so if you want to have something read here, just shoot us another message. But otherwise, got you down for the 2.
Cool Rain says, we'd like to bring back Zach Ertz. I wouldn't hate the idea. Would it happen? Probably not. I don't think they need Zach Ertz. They're not really a 2 tight end team in terms of passing the football. If Stoll comes in alongside Goddard, they're most likely running it, right? So, sure, just the fact that you could have him retire, maybe get another ring, that's great. It would be very cheap as well, but the idea that it would happen, I think, is slim. Ezra's got 5 here on a super chat, getting in on our Kelly Green jersey giveaway. Make sure I get caught up on some of these. And Shane Baker with 2 here says, both of your favorite moments from this past weekend. Well, I mean, we were going to wait on that a little bit, but I could go ahead and mention mine. I think it's the atmosphere, genuinely. Now, the other easy side of this is the fact that I got to bring my fiance to Philadelphia for the very first time. She had an absolute blast. One of the, I would say, few women out there who genuinely loves football, like actually loves football, one of the amazing things about her, but she had a blast, and that was really cool to share it. And then to be with Josh and his wife. I mean, Sandy obviously loves football as well, and you and I doing shows every single week together and now getting to go to games together. It was an absolute blast, but I think the atmosphere, it felt like a playoff game. Like we were at the NFC title game, and nothing feels quite the same as that, but for a week 7 in the NFL, pretty darn close.
Yeah, it felt more than just a regular season game. I would agree. Mine's probably similar. It was phenomenal weekend all around. I mean, just everyone stopping to say hey, the tailgate, hanging out, the game like you mentioned, the Kelly Greens. I mean, I don't know exactly what I expected, to be honest. Because you're going in the Kelly Green hype and all that, but the number of Kelly Green jerseys and the different vintage signs and the logo on the center of the field and everything, it was picture like I don't know that I could have had a better experience if I was trying to just pick and choose or make different changes to anything. I mean, it was just so awesome. I don't know. I don't know if I have a specific one. I mean, I kind of already mentioned this somewhat, but Sandy getting to experience like a legit Eagles game, her first Eagles game, the vibes, what the culture is like, and being there she just walked away being like, oh my gosh, that is just like unreal. It's like unlike anything else I've ever experienced. So for me, that was probably the biggest highlight and takeaway, is to get her to experience the same thing for what I experienced previously. Nolan Smith's sack was cool. You saw me go crazy. I lost it a little bit for that. That was awesome. But yeah, it was the best weekend. It was so awesome.
Ryan Grieb, 10 entries in here, or 10 more, I should say, to our Kelly Green jersey giveaway. Running back's probably the weakest position. Talking up to more of coaching than actual talent. Why has Penny only played 4 snaps this year? I can't wrap my head around that. I can't either. I think it was Sirianni last week who reiterated that they aren't trading him. They have him there for a reason. Gainwell red zone touches didn't work until the very end, as they haven't, and
Yeah.
until the one touchdown. But Swift has just not been able to get going. Like there isn't the same running lanes we saw in that Viking game. There was that viral picture between the left guard and center where he had about 5 yards of space to run through and just one safety 10 yards behind, right? We haven't seen that yet. And there are the statistics saying that Jurgens being out has caused the running game to greatly regress, excuse me, but is Cam Jurgens playing on the left side, right? Does his right guard abilities impact the Eagles running left? Like Dickerson and Mailata and Kelsey are all still there. I can't quite figure it out other than the fact that they just aren't really sticking with it as much. And we've seen that the past couple of weeks where they're throwing the ball. And I think they understand that they're better than you are at throwing the football. Like your corners aren't stopping us. Backups in Miami, Eli Apple, whatever. But I do think as we get closer to December and as the weather gets colder and colder and you're playing some really tough teams, when you go to Arrowhead, you're not throwing 40 times to win. You're running 40 times to win. And so that would be my one, I would say, concern, if you want to use that word going forward, is you have got to make sure the running game gets back to being dominant, because that's how you dominated in the playoffs last year, because the Giants and the 49ers had no chance against it.
Right. Yeah, that's your bread and butter. That's what you have to live off of. That's what you have to go back to. So I don't know. I'll be interested because it's hard to say for sure. To your point, like the left side is not as impacted by Cam Jurgens. I mean, obviously, yeah, you got some pulling situations and things like that, and I don't think anyone would argue that Cam Jurgens is a lot more athletic than Sua Opeta. Now, strength-wise, sure, Sua Opeta can hold up, but I mean, I haven't seen anyone break it down incredibly detailed, so I would need film and have to review that and all that. But overall, there's probably somewhat of a difference. But is it like a 2 yards per carry type of difference? I don't think so. I don't. Maybe, but I don't think so. Now, with the questions of teams starting to key off of it more possibly because of how explosive it was for the first few seasons or first few games in the season. Okay, yeah, you could see a little bit of an overreaction there. But I mean, again, this is what you're known for. This is what the O-line can do and usually dominates on. So there's something. It doesn't surprise me that, I mean, Stout is for sure going over this and the game plan of like, we're going to get this figured out. Like there's going to be a 100-yard rusher again, and it's going to be multiple games. So I think we get it taken care of. You'll probably see an uptick whenever Cam Jurgens comes back. And then that's where I'll be curious is, how much of an uptick? Do we see a drastic difference? Because then we'll have our answer going, okay, well, hey, there's more of an impact than I guess we assume so. But yeah, right now it's just a little bit off.
Go to Ezra. He did 5 more, but also went ahead and commented saying, absolutely love your show, guys. My first Eagle game against the 49ers. There you go. Any advice for food spots? Thank you and love you both. Josh and I both made the mistake of asking our comment section the best cheesesteak places. And it wasn't a bad idea, but there's about 50 of them, and everybody has an opinion. So just because you say this cheesesteak place is good doesn't mean the other person said it was good. I mean, go back to the comment section of us last week and read our comment section when we ask about cheesesteaks. There's a billion of them. We ate at some good restaurants. I don't think we ate any place that was like magical, but it was. It was always good food in a big city like Philadelphia. But there's so many different options to go for a cheesesteak that I just can't name one.
Yeah. You'll probably get comments now that'll pop up for cheesesteaks, I would imagine, throwing out that question. But appreciate it, Ezra. We did go to Ishkabibbles, so for people that had thrown that out there, it was very close to where we were walking. So Sandy and I tried that the first. Because I hadn't had the authentic, that was through the roof. Like my experience was like, this is insane. But then Angelo's was another cheesesteak place that was mentioned. We didn't get to go try D'Alessandro's. I think that it's just kind of too far northwest of where we were going, but I still would love to go and try those. But to your point, I mean, we also asked so many people, even in Philly, and they're like, no, just go up the corner. Like you can find one anywhere, and it's going to be authentic and great and all that. So you can't go wrong, I guess, from what the general consensus. Everyone's got a place, so just go find a cheesesteak place, and you're good. I did want to mention too, Serenity 21372 did respond back after the super chat and said, any plans to go back again? Yes, there are. Depending on availability, and Sandy is due January for those that don't know. So that might throw a wrench in something. We are going to try to go to the game in Dallas, but if Eagles make the playoffs, which that should happen, but still, I'm going to say if. I don't want to jinx anything, but assuming that happens, NFC Championship game would be pretty sweet, depending on timing. I know Sandy's listening to this.
obviously you have to, host it too, right? You got to be the number one
Right.
seed, or at least got to be a top seed. That way you have a chance to host the NFC title game. But if the NFC title game's in Philly, Josh and I are both going to be, pretty strong chance we're there. We talked about the Super Bowl too. The problem with the Super Bowl is you need to buy your tickets before we know who's going. Right, so you got to buy them before the NFC title game to get them at their cheapest. And again, they're not that cheap, but still, like I have friends in Vegas. We could
True.
stay at their house. Like we could make it cheap enough. But then if they were to lose and not go, then you got to get rid of this ticket because do you really want to go? I mean, I don't know if I would. I would like the experience, but watch the Super Bowl at home was still very, very fun. Friends and family and stuff like that. So we talked about that. But again, that's a long ways away. The right answer is what you said at the beginning. The Cowboy game in Dallas, because you live in Dallas. Paige and I can fly down there very easily and hang out and then go to the game. I've been to Jerry World. We both went to, Baylor's. We've been to Jerry World a whole bunch. But that will be the actual next game that we would go ahead and go to. I do want to get to Jalen Hurts here quickly before we do some more comments. Jalen Hurts, this whole injury thing. You talked about it on your show a couple of days ago. I talked about it on my show today. Brian Johnson had a very interesting answer to the whole, did Jalen get hurt? Did he tell you that he was hurt? And Brian said he doesn't really like to tell us, and it felt like he was basically saying that Jalen will, mask his pain and try and play through it because he's a tough guy, which shocks absolutely nobody. But I still thought that he was injured. I mean, you go through the footage that we showed on our shows where he's wincing, where he's limping, where he's, got a little gip in his step. Something is not right. And you mentioned it happened during the Patriots game. People thought it was the Vikings game. It wasn't the Rams game because it was the wrong foot. Like, we all were having these conspiracy theories. But then this afternoon, no injury designation. He says it didn't happen in a running situation, meaning it happened in the pocket, which is interesting as well. And it's not a big deal. And Sirianni echoed that he's going to play on Sunday. So do we just assume now that this was much to do about nothing and he might have just had a little bruise or something like that and he's fine? Or are you still a little hesitant? Because I think both of us were like,
Yeah.
he's fine, wink, wink, because they're trying not to make sure that he's, got a target on his left knee.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I definitely feel like he is injured to some extent. Now the question becomes, or I saw some that are going to try to make a big deal out of this is, well, he wasn't on the injury report, and the Eagles could get fined if they're not actually listing legit injuries, or trying to hide stuff or whatever. But it's not to that extent. But there is something like Jalen limping the way that he was. You can see the runs from the Kelly Green. Not only were we in person, but like you mentioned, the clips and the footage you can go back and look at. He's not 100%. And then even if you rewind that further to other games, I think most all of us would say Jalen has looked a little bit off. Like his speed,
yes.
His agility. It's not been crazy. It's not been drastic, but there's just a little bit of a difference, whether it's the first step or quickness or something. So, I feel like I don't feel like it's a major deal, but it's something enough for him to have to put on a brace at halftime. So
right.
I don't know. I would love to know, and we probably never will, but I would love to know what the play was because there's all the speculation of when did it happen. But it's obviously not affecting him enough where he's going to miss time. And I think he's incredibly tough because the injury in Chicago where he injured his shoulder and he comes back out and plays the game. And,
yes.
We figure out, that is a pretty serious injury, but he stayed in and was able to make some ridiculous throws. So it's going to take a lot, as we know, to keep Jalen out of the game. But I definitely wouldn't say just because he was not on that injury report today that he's not bruised or banged up or there's something with the knee going on.
Right. Shane Baker says best team talent-wise this year or last. It's this year, and it's this year because of Jalen Carter. No offense to Javon Hargrave, and Javon Hargrave is going to have more sacks last year than Carter does this year. Carter is a more dominant player. He is a more dominant player. I have never really seen someone since probably prime Fletcher Cox in an Eagles uniform demolish people. I mean, we were sitting in the end zone, right? So where you get to kind of watch more of the offensive and defensive line play versus being on the side where you're watching the quarterbacks and running backs. And you just a couple plays, you just watch Jalen Carter. He runs on the field on the third down. You're like, okay, there he is. He's unbeatable one-on-one. I mean, I think I looked over at you and I said, I think he's won 90% of his one-on-one snaps. And at times I saw him be triple teamed. They would double him with the center and the guard, and then a back would take a fake handoff and chip him as well. This guy is unbelievable. Now, there are other reasons. A.J. Brown is better this year than last year, which is crazy because he was insane last year. I think the offensive line, when healthy, is just as good. I think the linebackers, you can argue, are better. I think that now the safeties, because Blankenship's in year 2, Byard next to him, like they're very similar teams, but I think overall they're a little bit better. But the main reason is because Jalen Carter is unbelievable. And year 2 Jordan Davis is exactly what you wanted year 2 Jordan Davis to be. He's about 5 times better than he was year 1.
Yeah, I agree. Like you say, we were at the game. I looked over at you two at one point, and we had seen, Jalen Carter. I think this whenever he had knocked down Isaiah Wynn, and then the next play he created some havoc and stuff. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're watching this player, and in no point, like, if I just see the guy on the field, and am I saying that's a rookie out there? Like,
No.
he looks like an all-pro already. And so the fact that he is getting double teamed and triple teamed every time he comes out there, it speaks for itself. I feel like it's the fact that you've got all the pieces there. And then also, I guess it's kind of a 50-50 trade-off, because I know it's still early, but I feel like vast majority might agree with this. Shane Steichen, a little bit of a loss compared to Brian Johnson. It's early, but a little bit of a loss. However, on the other side of the ball, Sean Desai compared to a Jonathan Gannon is a very big difference, like what we've seen so far. And you could say the passing defense is not up to where we might want it to be. It's 19th or 20th, but it's getting better. And heck, look at the guys that he hasn't had. I mean, he's had to just have this shuffling deck of, well, who's going to play safety? Who's going to play corner? Who's going to play nickel? Because we're losing all these guys. So I think it kind of evens out or balances there. But yeah, I mean, I would say maybe by a very slim margin, it's this team this year. But either way, I mean, they're so complete teams. And with this move, with this, kind of final major acquisition, in my opinion, it's solidifying it. You know what you got in Kevin Byard, and Howie, he's smelling blood. He sees this team as good as it can be. And he goes, we got to get a safety. We got to get a safety to shore that up. And then even once we have the guys come back and we're healthy, this thing's going to be rolling. So yeah, I did this team. We were already excited, but you add the All-Pro to it. It's incredible.
Screaming Eagle football, 10 entries into our Kelly Green jersey giveaway happening at the end of the third quarter on Sunday against the Washington Commanders. Be sure to watch both of our shows for that. Love the vibes, guys. Not to count our eggs before they hatch. How do you feel about our record going into the bye? 8-1 possible. It is possible, for sure. But what have we struggled with the past couple of seasons? We struggled with the Washington Commanders, which happens every single year. We almost lose to them once every single year. And we always split with Dallas. Like, we always split with Dallas. And that Cowboy game is going to be crucial. If Dallas wins on Sunday against a tough Rams opponent, we saw them earlier. We saw what they can do against some teams. We obviously saw them lose on Sunday to the Steelers and their defense. But if Dallas wins, they set up kind of a must-win against Philly, right? Because the tiebreaker is going to be very important. Now, you play them twice, but if they can come to Philadelphia and steal one, the Cowboy trajectory of their season goes all the way up. Like, if they lose on Sunday, then lose to us, then the division's virtually handed to us on a silver platter. But that is not going to be an easy game. And so while I think 8-1 is the possible outcome, I think it's going to be a very, very tough Sunday matchup, and then a very, very tough Sunday night matchup whenever Philadelphia takes on the Dallas Cowboys. Sorry, Sunday afternoon, because the one in Dallas is Sunday night. But it's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee.
No, not a guarantee. As we know, like you mentioned, every single game, every single week. If I told you before, heck, all of us or the vast majority thought that we'd beat the Jets, and look what happened there. So you can't give it as it's a foregone conclusion, and we're going to beat Washington because we should beat Washington. But it's very possible. Like you say, I would say at this point, I feel like if I had to take the bet, that we are going to be 8-1. I feel like where this team is at now, again, anything can happen. I'll preface it with that, but I do feel confident in saying if you had to make a selection, if I had to make a selection there, I'm going to say we go 8-1 at the bye, because we did get a scare of Washington, and they do play us tough, but I almost feel like it works to our advantage. Like, it's like, hey, you remember what happened against Washington. So I could see us going into this a little bit more focused. Like, okay, we need to actually show out here and not let this thing get carried away or just be lackadaisical or things like that. So you win there. And then Dallas, the fact that it's a home game, I think that's the difference maker on that side. Plus, you're kind of knowing you're going into the bye after that week. I don't know. That's where I would be at. But again, it wouldn't surprise me because this is the NFL if you do lose one of those games. But either way, I mean, heck, if you're looking at it right now and you're saying we could be going to the bye at 8-1 or 7-2, I highly doubt we lose 2 in a row. I mean, that's a great place to be. And 8-1 is phenomenal, but 7-2 even, because we know the stretch that comes out of the bye week, looking pretty solid. I think we would take that.
Devin Reeves, 2 entries into our jersey giveaway. Do we need a new nickel? I don't think that we do. I get the argument, But you have a nickel coming out of being banned, essentially, for the entire season, this offseason. Roby was really good whenever you put him in there, or at least good enough. And now Eli Ricks. We cannot take away from the fact that Eli Ricks played 14 snaps in coverage, all on Tyreek Hill, was targeted 3 times, 0 catches. That's hard to do. His length is really, really tough to figure out. That's what made Richard Sherman so good. It wasn't necessarily the height, it's the arm length. And Ricks has those super long, slender man type arms where he can just get behind people, reach over, and knock it out of the way. You saw that on 4th down and 10, the final Dolphin drive of the game. He was one-on-one with Tyreek Hill. They have a lot of trust in this kid. I mean, they're putting him on islands, and it's crazy to think about, but I think that he is kind of the nickel that you need. Now, you can't play him all the time. You saw only 14 snaps, like I just said. They clearly are trying to protect the kid and not let him get beat, multiple times a game. But Byard comes in, and he provides you, again, the tight end safety slot coverage, and if you can mix him with Ricks whenever you need to, based on personnel that the opponent throws at you, I think they're going to be okay. Now, injuries can happen, but they can happen anywhere, and they can happen at any time, and you can't just, sign people because of the fact or trade for them because you might get injured there. But I would argue that they're absolutely fine at nickel, and it's because, thank goodness, they did not let go of Eli Ricks. They kept him on the roster. He looks like another UDFA steal.
Totally, completely. Yes, I think that we were, even in the preseason or after the last preseason game, saying, you better sign him or keep him on the active roster because there's no way that he's going to slip to the practice squad. He's going to get picked up by other players. So I think that's a great point. And don't forget about, you've got the possibility, or I guess you mentioned, kind of sliding in different guys, but even the Sidney Brown rotation, because, whether he's getting in the safety action or some of the slot, you move things around, depending on depth or injuries. So I think it's a great point. The fact that we beforehand, and you don't exactly know what you have, right? I mean, whenever you got rookies and UDFAs and things like that, you got to figure it out. So the beauty and the blessing, I think, that we've talked about before is there's some trial by fire. And as much as we would say, like, okay, Desai is practically having tryouts on some of these games, certainly in the Rams game, it felt that way with Cooper Kupp for a little bit until he got things figured out. But it's actually a better way to do it because these guys have been challenged and they're going to be proven and they're going to be ready to step up. And you're starting to see that. And the cream rises to the top. And I know it's a small sample size, but you mentioned it there. I mean, what Eli Ricks was able to do against Tyreek Hill in the slot, I mean, he was matched up 4 times and there were no completions there. So it speaks for itself of his ability to lock up whenever he needs to. I think we all know he's a gamer, but it's an area that, coming into the season, feels very similar to the linebacker situation where we said, gosh, who do we have? Like, who's going to be good? Do we know what it's going to be? And then all of a sudden you say, oh, we've got some depth now at linebacker. And hey, we got some depth here at nickel. So I don't know that there's near as many questions in those positions, which again is a very, very great place to be in.
Subbet Steve says, enjoy your insight. Keep up the good work. And 10 entries saying, go Birds, in the Kelly Green jersey giveaway. We appreciate you.
There you go Birds.
Steve. And we got another super chat somewhere in the chat. There it is. Anish, 10 more. Did Josh enjoy Nolan Smith's sighting during the game? I'll answer that question. I was sitting right next to him, and he jumped up and started squealing like a little girl. He was very excited, and it was very funny to watch because I knew it was going to happen. And what's funny is that, Nolan Smith played 4 snaps. So when he came in, it was kind of like, oh, look, there's number 3. And then to instantly get a sack, he looked so surprised, Nolan Smith did, watching the replay, that he got around the edge that quickly. And it was like, whoa, I'm here. Like, there's the quarterback. Let me just get him down. Jordan Davis gave him a big hug on the sideline. There's an argument that he needs to play more. Now, it is strange to me that he only played 4 snaps. It's like, okay, if he's actually ready to go, why are you still playing Barnett? It's not like Barnett's doing anything, right? And now maybe they're trying to showcase him for the trade deadline. That's one argument. But again, what are you going to get for Derek Barnett besides a 7th-round draft pick? It's just wild to think that some team would take that much for him. But it does feel like we're getting to that point in the season where it's time for Nolan Smith to start playing more than 4 snaps on defense. Can he get 10? I know you can't take Reddick snaps away. You can't take BG snaps away. You can't take Sweat snaps away at all. But you could take Barnett snaps away, right? It should be that simple.
Yeah, it really should. And we've talked about this a couple times, just the fact that, Barnett is not getting the pressures. It'd be nice. You might as well throw some out there. for Nolan. But yes, that was a pretty good reenactment or representation for what I did whenever
Yeah,
Nolan got the sack. Because I
it's
think that
true.
you did mention, even whenever he came onto the field, I think you're like, oh, hey, Nolan's
I
coming
think
in.
I pointed.
I was
Yeah,
like, let's go. I was like, let's get the sack here, and it's just one of those that you're thinking like it's probably not going to happen. But yes, he's on the field, and then sure as the world, he did get the sack. But it looked a little out of place, like you mentioned, because I think he was surprised. Like he comes around the corner, like, whoa,
yeah,
I'm here at the quarterback, and then he gets the sack. So I'm happy for him. It's his first NFL sack. You take it however you can get it. So whoever wants to, there's going to be haters always. So people are like, oh, it was a gimme sack. It was easy. Okay, he didn't have to, block or go past a
sure.
tackle, but it was still a blitz pickup or a potential blitz pickup that tricked the left tackle, and all of a sudden he's getting to us. So we'll take it. But yeah, the fact that that Barnett has not been able to register those pressures, he's not, from what I'm seeing and what everyone's really commenting or posting, it's like he's not doing enough out there to justify, and he's
No.
not getting a lot of snaps either, but he's still getting a lot more than Nolan. So I'd say let's swap it up. Let's give him some chances, because we've already seen it in a very small sample size that, hey, at least Nolan can get a few. So put the athleticism out there, see what he can do. I'm all for it. I would love to see it.
Devin says, what the hell happened to Penny? Only 3 rushes this year. Also missing Boston
Yeah.
Scott. There is a conspiracy theory that they're going to hold him until you actually get to the latter part of the season and then kind of, release him or unleash him on the world, which is kind of a dumb argument because you could still activate him but not play him. But I guess if you needed the roster spot, I don't know. I don't know the answer to Penny. I really don't know the answer to Rashad Penny, and I don't know if they're going to give us one. It is clear, though, they've run the ball worse the past couple of weeks, and it feels like if there was a time to try him out, maybe now would be the time, but they're not keeping some superstar locked up, right? If Rashad Penny was the best running back on this team, he wouldn't be inactive, and it would showcase during training camp, and it would showcase during the preseason. Like, it didn't, Swift was clearly the best player in the preseason, so it's not like they're dumb. I just don't think that it's, as clear as we think it is, where they're just not playing him to not play him.
Right. Yeah. There's something, whether it's they're seeing just a lack of a first step or something in practice or just anything there, because they had talked him up, which was a little bit interesting. They talked him up in
They
training
did do
camp
that.
and
Yeah.
as we're going through preseason. So I was like, hey, we're going to see this guy. Like, I don't know where it's going to be. Maybe it's in the red zone. There's specific
Mhm.
packages, something. And then it's like the vast majority of the time, heck, we even looked at it before the game and you're like, hey, guess who the inactives are? But, I can tell you who that is before you even tell me,
Yeah.
because we know, like, Rashad Penny's not going to get much action. So there's something to your point that they see. They do feel, like Sirianni said, I think Brian Johnson's even spoken on it once before, of the depth that Penny provides. So if you do have some injuries, I mean, it's not the worst case scenario, but it's not good enough to get him on the field. So that's a little bit
Right.
alarming in terms of what they think about him. But I don't know. We'll see of how that plays out. By the way, TK says, new subscriber here, enjoying your content. Really appreciate that. Shout out there. Make sure to subscribe to both. Also, if you want to in on the giveaway for the jersey, make sure to just send over a super chat. But either way, we appreciate the support. Also, we had mentioned, I guess, kind of goes into the topic we were going to discuss a little bit, but the brotherly shove, which always comes up here. But Eric says, when he talks to the ref pregame about the brotherly shove, how do the refs respond to, and this is very interesting how he describes Jason Kelce, but he says, how does he respond to Taylor Swift's boyfriend's brother? So I guess that's how we're going to refer to Jason Kelce. But
I guess so. Sure.
they're mentioning, the brotherly shove, the fact that now two different games, two different instances, there's been an offsides call on Landon Dickerson when he wasn't offsides, but at a quick glance, it looks like, oh, hey, there's another hand that's passed the ball. That's Jason Kelce. So if anybody hasn't seen it, Jason Kelce has two hands, one on the football, one hand down, but it looks like Landon Dickerson, they've been called for it a couple times. So Kelce had mentioned, he's going to have to start talking to the refs beforehand. Curious your take on this. I mean, I feel like there's a relatively easier solution to it, and maybe it is just discussing, but thankfully we converted on the brotherly shove, but this could become an issue if all of a sudden it's like, well, there's another offsides call that shouldn't have counted.
Yeah, it's interesting. If I was Kelce, I would put on like a tape on my fingers that were yellow or something like that to further indicate, make my hands look like traffic cones. The bigger issue is the fact that Brock Purdy's in concussion protocol due to a quarterback sneak. Not a brotherly shove, by the way, which people need to understand on Twitter, Joe Shad, that it's a quarterback sneak, not the shove. It's a very different formation. And Purdy didn't get low enough and left himself teed up for a linebacker to hit him, and now he's in concussion protocol. And, the NFL now has an excuse to ban it, right? Even though one person getting hurt when the Eagles have run it like a billion times and not gotten hurt. It's very stupid. That's the bigger concern than the whole Kelce thing, because the issue is it's the opposing player who's offsides, and they did catch that because they called joint offsides, right? The Eagles were lined up offsides, and the Dolphins were as well offset, and they ran it again, so it was fine. But I don't have any concern with it. I think it's going to be just fine. And there was a poll, I believe, internally where the NFL did where like 70% of people said they need to keep it. And I'd be surprised if they were able to stop it. And I see the tide turning on Twitter, too. Like, if you're not playing Philadelphia and they do brotherly shoves, you're probably saying that it should be legal because it's unstoppable, but no one else can run it, right? But if you're playing us, like the beat reporter Joe Shad said, I'm sure you saw the Dolphins beat writer complain about it and get ripped for it, then it makes you upset. Side note, I rode an elevator at Kansas State with Joe Shad back in the day. I just realized that. He was an ESPN reporter, yes. And I said, "What's up, Joe?" And he said, "Hey, man," and that was it. So my connection to now eternally triggered Dolphins reporter for the Dolphins Sun Time or Miami Sun Herald or whatever it's called. I was at K-State. I think the game you and I covered, I was taking the media elevator up, and he was in the elevator with me as well. So fun fact there on Joe Shad. Rafael Rivera Montalvo. Sorry if I butchered that. Both you guys are awesome, man. Blessings. 5 entries into our Kelly Green jersey giveaway. We greatly appreciate that. Paul Brown with 20. We've seen enough of Barnett. Give Nolan a run. Paul, we agree. You do not have to tell us twice. And you don't have to tell Josh twice either, because Josh would be all for that because he's the biggest fan of Nolan Smith in history.
Absolutely.
But yes, we totally agree. Totally agree.
We're going to make it happen.
Josh H5, he says, Kelce said in his pod he won't change the color of his gloves, doesn't want his hands highlighted the rest of the game. I did see that in the New Heights podcast. Although, is it just because he thinks it gives the defense a competitive edge? I maybe, but to me, it's like, but you know how like tennis players, and I guess some linemen will tape individual fingers. Like a couple little, circles of the green tape would make it very clear to some side judge watching them as they line up.
Yeah, I know. I saw that too. I feel like it would be a very easy solution, but again, if he doesn't want to do that, I guess it's fine. But I suppose too, because again, he's mentioned like, just have a conversation with the refs before the game. If they're aware of it, it's surely going to help somewhat. But like in the heat of the moment, is there going to be like, oh wait, there's a throw a flag real quickly? Hopefully not. I mean, again, they're professionals. The refs are for a reason. We don't want the amateurs coming back out there for any strikes or anything like that going on. They are better than what we've seen that can be the second hand. Sure. But I don't know. It feels like that would be a much easier solution, but he doesn't want to do it there. So that's fine. I could respect it if he doesn't. I just hope that, whatever he says to the refs beforehand is going to be good enough to go, okay, we're focusing on it now because we know. And I mean, at least the benefit is, because I think a lot of people realize this, but the league sends out notices to teams, and there's also communication that goes back and forth. So the Eagles can actually send this in to the league to say, make sure that the refs are looking at this. This is something, that should not have been called. So I'm sure those are discussions that are going on right now, and probably have been happening. So, maybe it ends up being a moot point, but again, it's like not a big deal in the game that we were at. My concern though becomes, I mean, if this is not considered, or if it's just a little bit overlooked, or they're not being as stringent with, was that Kelce's hand or was that Landon Dickerson's hand? You get in a late game situation where you're going to go for it on a fourth down. I mean, that could be the game. Like if it's hey, you need to convert this to keep the drive alive or gives the ball back to the other team. I don't know. So I just would hate for it to come to that. Again, we haven't gotten there yet. It's still fine, but just curious that it always gets brought up in some sort of topic with the brotherly shove.
Devin Reese says, if Taylor wears a Chiefs jersey at the Eagles game, she's banished from the 215. Thankfully, it's in Arrowhead, so she couldn't really be banished from here, because even I guess she does like Philly and from Philly, whatever it is. But she probably will be at that game, because that's going to be one of the big games of the year on Monday Night Football, so you're going to see her. You might as well get used to it. What I find funny is that we're slowly seeing the clout chaser start to kind of emerge, and you saw Jackson Mahomes suddenly in the box behind Taylor Swift. Very interesting.
Oh my gosh,
he was directly behind her whenever they cut over to her, which I think is funny, but what are you going to do? By the way, our Uber driver, fun fact, this is insider stuff, Big J journalism, our Uber driver from the Rocky Steps to Reading Terminal Market was a Miami Dolphins fan, so we didn't know who we were, which I thought was also kind of funny. He showed us a video. He had Jason Kelce in his Uber going to the Phillies game 2 nights prior, and he asked Jason, and he said Jason was like the coolest guy ever. No surprise there. He said, Jason, is it real? Is Taylor and Travis, is this real? And he said, man, they're in love. They love each other. So, and he was serious about it. So you heard it here first.
That's what he said.
They are in love. And if that doesn't get the Swifties to watch this video a million times, I don't know what will. But apparently, you heard it here first. They are in love.
And
Big time
also,
journalism.
for doubters, going to question it. Sometimes you don't know if your Uber driver's being legit or just having great stories.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
can't confirm if he said it, but he did actually show us the video, and it was legit Jason Kelsey in his car.
Yeah,
So,
it actually was. It was
he
him.
did meet him. Now,
Yes.
Was that actually what was said? I have no reason to doubt it, but yes, he was official meeting Jason Kelsey. I can't even imagine that. Like if you were driving Uber and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got Jason Kelsey. Surely it's not him. And all of a sudden he hops in your car. Like that was phenomenal. I loved it, but yes.
Shane Baker, Thomas and Josh, all-time favorite Eagle. Mine was Brian Westbrook. He was my favorite Eagle as a kid, and then I was a huge Deshaun Jackson fan, kind of more to my teenage years. But remember, I'm young, right? So I only go as far back as Brian Westbrook. I don't remember a pre-Brian Westbrook Eagle game because I'm very young. So obviously there were others before him, but yeah.
Yeah. Mine's Brian also, but I got to go with Brian Dawkins. So I know there's a ton of those as well, but I don't know, just the Weapon X. I mean, you don't really even have to say much for it, but I just remember, some of the games. I think I've told this story multiple times, but I'm in Dallas, family are Cowboys fans, so I somehow survived and got out, and I'm an Eagles fan, but just watching the games is like there's something that just gravitated to like. There's like you see him off the field and the interviews, the conversations, and what he does, and he's such a great guy. But he's been so open too about some of his struggles, and so like it's not only the things of on the field, and on the field was early on, but it's just kind of culminated going after the fact of just seeing the type of individual he is. So for me, for sure, Brian Dawkins doesn't get better than that for me.
Thomas Zelinsky, great name, says, I'm at work, 10 entries into our jersey giveaway, police officer. Hope I can still be part of the drawing. You are. Tune in on a Sunday afternoon to find out if you win. New listener, really appreciate all the content both of you provide. We appreciate that. We appreciate you, serving and obviously being a police officer today. Speaking of police officers, I love the police officer's response who arrested Chris Olave after speeding like an idiot a couple of nights ago, where Olave says, I'm a New Orleans Saint. And he goes, so? Like, you just watched the New Orleans Saint offense look absolutely terrible on Thursday night against the Jaguars, and that's going to be how you get out of a ticket, is to say, no, I'm with that Saints offense. That's really good, right? Oh, my goodness. Get out of here with that. Get out of here with that. Terrible, terrible. We got you down, though, Thomas. We got you down for the giveaway. Cameo? I think, is that the name? Cameo? You guys picked a great game to attend. Statement win. Let's keep it going. We did do that. I am 5-0 at the link right now, and Josh is 2-0 at the link. So we have never lost. Knock on wood, but
never lost.
They've never lost when we've been at the link.
Never lost anywhere. I'll say that. I've had 2 other games, so we're 4-0 everywhere, and you're 5-0 at the link. So
I'm 5-0 at the link. I'm 7-1 all time. My first Eagles game was a surprise by my parents to the Eagles Cowboys. What was it, wild card game at Jerry World. 2009, I think it was McNabb's last game where we got obliterated. Vic threw a touchdown because he was like still the Wildcat guy to Macklin, and that was it. So I was 0-1, but I'm 6-0 since, or sorry, 7-0 since. So we'll just chalk it up. But I'm not undefeated.
You just keep it.
I'm not undefeated. We got you down though. Got you down. A couple more comments here, and then we'll wrap things up. We're getting close to the top of the hour. Let's see. What do I have to do to find out if I win? Okay, for the jersey, let's just say this once and for all. We do this at the end of the third quarter during our live broadcast. So Josh and I are live just like we are right now during every Eagles game. So Eagles Commanders on Sunday, hang out, watch party, play-by-play. We have a lot of fun. You guys should definitely join us. But at the end of the third quarter, Josh has a big spinner wheel of fun where it showcases who all went ahead and entered and what size of the wheel. It's like a pie chart, what size you gave. And if you gave more, you have a higher chance, just odds of probability. And then we spin the wheel and it lands on some random name, and then we announce it on the show. So if you missed the broadcast, go ahead and watch it back. It'll be on both of our channels on Sunday evening, and then DM us and we'll get you the jersey. So very easy to do. 2 more here from Kinda High 215. Go Birds, been a fan since old show. I appreciate that. Hopefully the new show's better than the old show.
There you go.
That it is, but up to you on that one. And then let's do Joseph Sparks, who said, Go Birds, Philly fan from Missouri. Oh boy, I bet you had a lot of Taylor Swift fun there. There you go.
Yeah. Going to be going to the KC game, perhaps. I'm curious. Are you going to be going there?
You should.
In Missouri.
It's a good one.
Would be nice.
Pretty Mimi says, "Hey guys, what's the other channel? Depends on what channel you're watching right now. You on Josh's channel or my channel? That's the $1 million question."
It looks like she's on mine. So let me.
Here, I can do it right now. This is the other channel. Let's see if I can get that in there. Boom, that's the other channel. So sub to both. Perfect. That way you can go ahead and get in on the jersey giveaway. how to make sure I'm subscribed to both channels. You just go to both channels. So if you're on Josh's, you go to mine, which is right there. If you're on mine, then you go to Josh's. It's that simple.
Perfect.
Search my
That
name
works.
or search the Philly Special Show because that's Josh's. So very simple.
Got Jorge Villarreal. Love the content. Greetings from Mexico. So there you go. Someone viewing from Mexico. We appreciate that.
Here, Carlos says, I'm in Mexico. Can I still win a jersey? What's the answer to that question, Josh?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
We could figure out how that works exactly because we've gotten the peso, I think, conversion chart out at one point. It's been a little bit, but if you donate, it tells us or kind of tries to, and then we'll figure out what that looks like. But yes, you certainly can.
Ryan said, just make mine 50% of the wheel. LOL. There's a chance. There's a chance because
we can, Ryan, but you're going to have to contribute a little more than the 5 there. That's how we can get it up there, but it's possible.
Juan, this is a name I'm going to have a hard time. Maldonado. Jeez, I had a stroke. Maldonado. Sorry, I messed that one up. 10. Love the show. Go Birds. We appreciate that. Love you. And we love that you guys love the show. Sorry I butchered your name. That's my bad. Jared Allman says, what's up, guys? Go Birds. What's the Eagles' game plan against the Commanders? Can we not turn the ball over for once? Seriously. The Dolphins game would have been a perfect game had you not had 2 turnovers. 1 where Hurts held onto the ball too long, and 2 where it's really unlucky, although Hurts should have thrown that into the ground with the bootleg with the guy in his face. But still, it's 2 turnovers. Can we stop turning the ball over? That's the game plan. That's the game plan.
Please, yes. The fact that we have not had it hardly at all. Yes, if we could somehow go, which feels crazy because of last season and the I guess very few turnovers. But I would please sign up for that. If we cannot have turnovers, take care of the ball, be comfortable. Because stats wise, I think we all know this, and that's interesting. I didn't realize you could do a bubble whenever you put your thumbs up. So I just saw that in my delayed broadcast, but there's a bubble that went up when you did a thumbs up.
Yeah, you see that?
Yeah. But no,
so
but
weird.
The fact that we have not, the stats say that the offenses are equal, or this year could be, slightly above in terms of averages, except for the turnovers, which Jalen even alluded to in his presser today. So I think that's the missing link, the missing ingredient. As soon as we can get that to happen, limit the turnovers, we're moving the ball down the field.
Yeah.
Yes, the red zone, that will slowly get better. It was against Miami. I think that's going to slowly continue to get better as well. But yeah, you just got to hopefully take care of the ball.
2 entries from the Latin Inferno. We haven't seen him in a while, or her, not sure which, but it used to be someone who commented a lot. Now. Welcome back. Sign, Eagles make another trade by Tuesday. Which position? Any guesses, Josh? Any guesses?
We talked about it earlier.
I don't think it exists.
I was going to say, I don't know that there's going to be a major trade. I feel like if you did trade, it would be for a depth at O-line. It's not going to be a major one, but just something to solidify. If you're not feeling great about Opeta or Driscoll, in case you have injuries, something there perhaps.
There you go. Pretty Mimi says, do you guys think A.J. Brown should be in the MVP race? He should, but he won't win it. He has the same odds as Gardner Minshew right now for MVP. Now, that might have changed since 2 days ago because he is on this 5-game tear that no one's done since Megatron in 2012, but he won't win it. Let's just be real. It's a fun thing to say, but he just won't. Unless he absolutely dominates. I know he's been dominating, but keeps this up game after game after game all the way, there's still the boy named Patrick Mahomes. And when you look at Patrick Mahomes with the word MVP, it's hard not to give it to a quarterback. It's a quarterback award. Now, he could win Offensive Player of the Year at the ESPYs or something like that.
Yeah.
I think he wants to win a Super Bowl really, really badly more than MVP. But as much as I would like him to do it, and as he's been the MVP of our team so far this year, he's not winning NFL MVP. It just doesn't happen. Megatron never won NFL MVP, and the guy was stupid good, and he was the best player on his team. It's a quarterback driven award, and the problem is there's a quarterback in Kansas City who just so happens to have the longest win streak in the NFL right now. He's dominating everybody, and he probably is their MVP. So hate to see it. It's true.
I agree. Yeah, you're right. It's as much as we'd love to see it, I think he's technically an MVP candidate, but like you said, is he going to win it?
Fair.
The numbers of what he would have to put up, he'd have to continue at this pace. And even if he does, we're talking about close to, if not 2,000 yards receiving.
It has to be 2,000. Yes.
And the touchdowns, even as good as they're not bad, but his touchdowns are going to have to go up quite a bit. If you legitimately want him to win the MVP race, it's not just the yards, but he's going to have 2,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, something like that.
15, but yes.
It's got to be something
big.
astronomical.
It's big. Yeah, it's sad, but it's true. Joseph 2, go Birds, fly goes fly, no turnovers. We'd like to see that. No turnovers. That would be really good.
Please.
Who is the best individual swag of Eagles players? My vote is the Slim Reaper. It's a good question.
Good question.
I liked your video showing Landon Dickerson and was it Kelsey showing up in the 69 Mustang Fastback? That was pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know if that counts as style, but from a car standpoint, big fan of that one. But
I think I think they definitely won it for the Kelly Green. I don't know. Jalen rocks some pretty unique outfits before the game. He's always on point. It seems like, and they usually have some sort of like nuanced message. Not always, but it's kind of like, okay, he chose that for a reason. So I don't know. He's kind of out there. But Devonta, I mean, you saw his suit before the game, right?
Yes.
Like that's probably not a bad pick. I don't know that you could go with someone who's looking more style for than that.
I like the thing from Bryce Cooper. Cooper Kupp had a crazy season in 2021. Didn't even get an MVP vote. Definitely a quarterback award. Yeah, I mean, come on. It's now he did get a Super Bowl MVP award, which A.J. Brown could very easily do because it's a single game award, which he'd probably rather have. But NFL MVP is it's very, very, very hard to do. Okay, let's do one or two more here, and then we're going to wrap things up. I saw a question about the Lions versus the 49ers. Lions are going to bounce back. They're not going to look that bad against the Ravens, or against other teams going forward. But right now, the Niners are in trouble. 2 straight losses, 2 bad football teams, and they have Joe Burrow off of a bye, potentially healthier with the calf injury than he's been all year long. If they lose a third in a row, and Brock Purdy has a concussion, right? So you might see old Sam Darnold play. So the age-old adage of Kyle Shanahan can't keep quarterbacks healthy is starting to rear its ugly head. But the Niners, they got to win this week. Now, let's all hope they don't. I mean, come on. If the Niners could be 5-3, Dallas loses and we win, you start to really pull away, and you just don't believe San Francisco can come to Philly for an NFC title game and win. Plus, being a 1 seed means you don't play San Francisco or the Lions until the title game, right? Because the way the playoffs are going to work, the Eagles are going to play the highest or the lowest winning seed in Wild Card Weekend, probably the 4 seed, meaning the Eagles' potential playoff path would be divisional round at home against the Bucks or the Falcons, who are the NFC South winners, and then the NFC title game, right? Like it's the same thing that happened this past year where you played Daniel Jones and the Giants, and then you went ahead and played the Niners, right? Because the Niners would have to go ahead and play not only a wild card weekend, but then play the divisional round against the Lions, making it a lot tougher of a path. So big Cincinnati Bengal fans this weekend. That would be huge for the number 1 seed chances. Massive for those chances.
It would. Yeah, it doesn't get any bigger than that. Again, I know it's early in the season, but to your point, I mean, this is you don't get just a 1-game lead. You get a 2-game lead there, especially like you say, you come away with the win, and there's a chance of multiple teams behind you losing a game. There's lots of difficult ones for us coming up. We know that, but you take them while you can get them. And if you get in that situation, I think that there's probably going to be some jockeying, let's be honest, as far as who can play the NFC South. Like, just from what everyone's looking at right now. Teams want to play the NFC South to start out the playoffs. That's where you want to go, or who you want to play. So, no, I agree. You get this win, like we talked about earlier. I think it's very doable. It's very possible that you could be 8-1 going into the bye week. That would be a phenomenal place to be in. You sure up some other potential, coming back from injury if Cam Jurgens takes until the bye week, and you got Bradley Roby. Who knows how long he's going to be before he comes back. It could be in a really, really good spot. If you're 8-1 going to the bye, we would certainly take that.
Just quickly, just to kind of put a little visual on this, your 4 seed right now is Atlanta, your 5 seed is Seattle, your 6 seed is Dallas, your 7 seed is Tampa. The lowest winner of those would be your divisional round opponent. Now, it's really early, but for instance, you'd play Dallas, you'd play Seattle, who've looked awful the past couple of weeks with Geno Smith, or the offensively challenged, can you say that, Atlanta Falcons. So the 1 seed would be massive this year because you would not have to play the Lions or the Niners in the divisional round. So, all right, last super chat here coming in from Devin. 5 more. One last entry for the jersey. Keep the great work, gents. Devin, we appreciate
it.
And yes, we have you down. We got you down for all of your entries. Be sure to tune in on Sunday afternoon for the entire broadcast for the Commanders. We'd love to see you guys there. But also at the end of the third quarter for when we're going to draw, where all of these are going to be, tallied up and actually put into a fun little spinning wheel that's randomly selected from some random website. And the winner is selected, and then you possibly get your own Kelly Green jersey. So it could be a lot of fun. All right,
there you go.
For Josh Davis, I'm Thomas Mott. We wrap things up over an hour here. See you guys in the next one. Be sure to sub for both of our normal shows during the week, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
We'll see you guys. Go Birds.
See ya.